The outlook for employment this year is beginning to look up. A series of reports have been put out by different agencies talking about an improvement in the intent to hire, a stark improvement in the number of people hired across sectors in the month of March, and even CMIE data looks at employment numbers or unemployment numbers for this month, for the month of March, decreasing fairly significantly. So what are the overall trends? Where are the new jobs, and what can be the outlook we can hope for the next year? Is it tied in to the economic conditions and the recovery that we're seeing in India, even in the midst of a geopolitical war going on, as well as fears of the next wave of COVID-19? So to get a better sense of what the job market looks like right now, I'm joined today by two very credible agencies which put out data regularly. Deval Singh from TeamLease is with us on the show. I'm also speaking with Ashish, Johri, who is the CEO of Allsec Technologies, which is a Quess Company. Welcome to both of you, and thank you so much for joining us today on the India Development Debate. Ashish, let me begin by getting your take. Quess has put out data recently looking at a significant jump in payroll data, because you look at the actual pay slips which come through across sectors for the month of March. Can you elaborate on this?
Sure. Tavanna, first off, thanks for having me. I come from Allsec Technology. Just as a context, Allsec is a payroll and HRMS service provider in India and across Southeast Asia. We are perhaps amongst the largest payroll and HRMS service providers in India, processing almost 10 lakh pay slips per month in India alone. That gives us a great vantage point on where employment is headed across various sectors and industries. That said, while Quess, the corporate group, issues a lot of data on the grey collar and blue collar workforce, we in Allsec skew our data towards white collar. We are amongst the largest white collar payroll and services provider in India. So you will get a perspective from us on where the white collar workforce is headed. We do also have a bit of grey collar workforce in logistics and e-commerce, where we have a good viewpoint. Now, with that context, let me jump into what we see, what's happened over the last 1 year. Now, over in the first year of COVID, post the first lockdown, we had seen very tepid growth in headcount. A lot of the industry verticals like construction, retail, wholesale, travel, hospitality, even financials and healthcare, surprisingly, also had shrunk. But in the last 1 year, April 21 to March 22, what we see is a revival across many industry sectors. The headcount overall has grown by 18.4% across multiple industry verticals. Dominant in this growth, driving this growth, is surprisingly travel, hospitality, energy, communications, media, ITes, of course, is a very large part of that. E-commerce is another part of the growth story. Now, this is what's happened in the last 1 year. It's about 18.4% growth in the last 1 year alone. What we see is for all these verticals, combined, put together, we are almost 30% above the pre-COVID levels. So we're not only at pre-COVID, but we're almost 30% over these pre-COVID levels. Now, hidden in all of these numbers, of course, are verticals which have not grown even in the 2 years. They're still struggling, and then we'll talk about them in a bit. Let me turn it back to you.
Sure. No, just a follow-up there, Ashish, and I'm quite interested to know. You talk about employment returning to or beating pre-COVID levels by 30%, but how widely spread is this increase? Is it limited to a few sectors, and which would those sectors be?
Yes, that is true. We do see a fair amount of polarization in the employment, especially the white collar. So e-commerce, in the 2 years put together, e-commerce, logistics, ITes, lately energy, these are the bellwethers and growth stories. On the other side, the laggards in terms of headcount growth, you have construction that has lagged almost. It is still 25, 27% below pre-COVID levels. Then you have healthcare, which is around around 10% below pre-COVID levels. Wholesale and retail is around another 24% below pre-COVID levels. Travel hospitality is a very interesting story. In the last 1 year, it has boomed. We've seen almost a 47% growth in headcount over the last 1 year. However, it is still 25% below pre-COVID levels.
All right. Deval, now in the data that TeamLease has put out, I'm looking at a figure which is intent to hire, which looks at a 54% number. That is 54% of the employers that you have surveyed say that they intend to hire. That's a 4% increase compared to last quarter. I want to understand first that to what extent does this intent to hire translate into actual hires? And what are the material differences that you're seeing quarter on quarter?
So, Tamanna, what we are showing in this report basically says that more and more organizations are now getting confident enough to be hiring. We have almost, done our survey where 54% of India's employers have come back firmly and collectively saying that they will be hiring in the quarters to come, especially in the quarter of one. And it is a good story to tell. Right now, it's raining jobs across all industries. While, of course, like my colleague Ashish over here said that some are doing better than the others, but the growth story is stagnant across all the industries. What the intent to hire is basically saying is in certain industries, certain number of employees have agreed or said that, yes, they are hiring, and they are hiring quite massively across their functions. For example, when you look at the industries which we kind of polled and spoke to, our number one industry is, of course, tech. It's no secret right now that, in tech, hiring is on a high. 95% of the employers have said that they will be hiring in herds in the quarter of one. The second would be, of course, the EdTech services. Educational technology is doing so well right now. And these guys will also be hiring. Around 86% of them said that they will be doing hiring. Then we have e-com. I think what COVID has done is made our lives easier by, on-door services. And all of this is ensuring that e-com also sees a boom. And around 81% of the employers said that they will be hiring largely in quarter of one. And healthcare services, there is a demand of healthcare workers in India right now. So almost around 78% of employers have said that they will be hiring in the quarter of one. And last but not the least is telecom. Telecom is seeing a boom in hiring. Around 75% of the employers under the sector have said that they're going to be hiring and hiring for a lot of manpower across the board. So what you can see shaping out right now is these industries are showing you a lot of growth. But at the same time, I don't believe that the other industries are not doing well. They are also hiring, but not to that level. But they will scale up. They will scale up in the quarters to come. It's a good story to tell. It is a good scenario to be in, where almost every industry is doing quite well, and we are seeing a lot of open positions pouring in and a lot of hiring happening across the industries, as per the report.
Give us some perspective, Deval. These sectors which you're saying are showing much enhanced intent to hire, and you're saying it's raining jobs. At what levels are these? Are we looking at lower paying jobs in larger numbers, or are senior positions also opening up? Because this gives us a perspective of how much these companies are willing to invest in new lines of business.
Freshers, Tamanna, a lot of freshers hiring. So you will see a lot of dependency, a lot of these jobs moving into the freshers sector. So we have entry-level jobs that are quite high. We also have mid-level jobs. So the large chunk of hiring that is happening is into the entry-level and the mid-level. A lot of tech companies right now are hiring graduates to the tunes of 10,000 to 15,000. So you can only imagine that the hiring required, or the intensity with which they're hiring, is quite high at the entry level. Leadership positions and the leadership churn is also quite high. Let's not disregard that. With the startup boom in India and with the way unicorns are getting created, there is a lot of requirement of leader position, but at the top, of course, the requirement will never be as high as at the bottom, which is the entry level. So you can see that churn happening. So I would say it is a mix of around 50 to 55% being in the entry level, around 30-ish% being in the mid-level, and of course, the top would be around 10 to 14%, which is quite high for the leadership level too. We are seeing a constant churn happening because we talk to candidates quite a bit, Tamanna. And what the expectation at every level is it's quite interesting to hear. And the churn is becoming real, and different inspiration and different level of accounting is coming into play when it comes to what a candidate really wants from this job. And the requirements are across the board, whether it's entry level, mid-level, or senior level. But of course, entry level and mid-level being higher than the senior level.
We'll come back to that thing of what candidates want in just a bit. But Ashish, if I could return to you for a little more detail, do you also agree that these are largely fresher positions which are now getting created? And what is the sort of trend this is pointing to in terms of how companies want to expand? Can we also go ahead and say that most of the boost is coming in the service sector, not so much in manufacturing, that to IT-driven companies?
Tamanna, yes, I would agree a lot with what Deval just said. Look, first off, the growth story, while some sectors are doing extremely well, but across the board in the last 2 years, there is a headcount addition of almost 30%. So it's a fantastic story if you look at the macro view. That is one. Second is, in the current situation, we do see some of the growth coming obviously at the fresher level, and that is to be expected because that's where the jobs went away in the first year. So the first return is there. But that said, because Allsec is looking at the white collar and the corporate functions, we feel that these are a precursor to not just near-term growth. They are a good indicator, not just of near-term growth, but also give you a good lens into what sectors and what industries will do well over the next few years as well. So we see a growth story coming out of potentially travel hospitality turning itself around, hopefully in the next 1 year. At least this last 1 year has been a bonanza year for them in terms of hiring. A lot of the growth is ITes led. E-commerce, logistics driven. Manufacturing has lagged, although it seems to have bottomed out and growth has returned this year, although in tepid numbers, but it has started growing for sure.
I also want to understand, and Ashish, let me come back to you first on this. What kind of an impact has COVID had on the whole employer and employee relationship going forward? Are we seeing more positions opening for a hybrid or a remote working sort of situation? Are we seeing temporary contracts becoming more popular? Could you give us some perspective on, the post-COVID employment scenario?
Tamanna, sure. So, look, first off, over the last 2 years, we have seen an exponential growth in the gig workforce, contract workforce, especially the last 1 year. In a lot of the functions. So, for instance, in logistics, that has grown exponentially. The e-commerce players that have grown exponentially in the last 2 years. A lot of their growth has also come through gig workforce and contract workforce. That is one. In the ITes space, we do see over the last 2 years hybrid work and work environments being floated from a JD perspective, work from home being dominant. However, we do see through our clients, etc., we do see some of that reversing. Now that some of the larger bellwethers in the IT industry are taking a stand that they will gradually start coming back to office over the next year or so. We are beginning to see some of that showing up, not in full force, but it is beginning to show up in some of the numbers that we see.
You want to answer that question as well? You referred earlier to what candidates also want. What is in that list of demands?
I think 4 things: purpose, passion, balance, and impact. I think what we have to keep in mind is COVID has changed the way we see the world, and even for almost everybody, including the candidates who are right now seeking jobs. I think the traditional way of thinking that I want to do a 9 to 5 kind of a job, make my money, go home and relax, is that thought world is changing altogether, where people are now driven by passion, people are now driven by purpose. They really want some balance in life, and at the same time they want to kind of do a job that creates impact, does something bigger and better for the organization, for the country, and for themselves. And I think that conversation keeps coming over and over again as we talk to the candidates, and that is something even the employers are thinking about as to what can they do or what can they say to sell that particular job to a candidate. And that shift of mindset is what is right now driving the job market, Tamanna. I think what real stories that are coming out is there is tremendous churn happening in the market, and there are 3 ways to look at it. Open positions, like I told you, jobs are increasing, hiring is on a high. So like Ashish said, that there were entry-level positions are only natural for us to grow back because they were put on hold during the COVID period. But there is a second one, which is you have new positions that have come up because of the skill shift in the market that was created by COVID. So there are open positions coming from there where you need manpower. And the third is what we've been talking about, the great resignation, which is creating replacements, which is creating attrition. And those are also the positions that are open in the market. So you have tremendous levels of open positions, but you do not have enough candidates to fill those open positions. And these candidates are right now sitting on the sidelines, picking and choosing what is that they really want to do, what is that drives them, what is that really they're passionate about. And this shift in the mindset of the candidate is exactly what is happening. And that is creating this constant churn of job market and the demand in the job market to get more and more people and talent in. And it's created a talent war, Tamanna, right now, which is unprecedented. We have not seen before what we are seeing right now, but it's a good thing. It's the job seekers market right now.
Oh, that's a real change in trend from how the Indian job market is traditionally seen as becoming a job seekers market. Deval, is this then reflecting on salaries as well? Are you seeing an upward trend there?
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure you must have heard stories too. We are looking at candidates who's natural and they expect at the least 50% hike over an offer. That's the least you're talking about. So 50 to 70% is an average expectation of a techie when they're jumping jobs. And of course, we've also had offers where we have seen offers, where the hike is from 100 to 200% to 300%. There are different perks being offered to candidates to attract them to their job. For the fact that, Tamanna, every candidate at this point of time is sitting on 2 to 3 offers. So it is the job seekers market. It's the candidates market. It's a good place to be in if you're looking.
And this is all in tech. This is all in tech.
No, this is, yes, majorly in tech, yes, Tamanna, but it is now flowing into other industries also. Bear in mind that that India right now has 91 unicorns with almost around $39 billion pumped into Indian startups. So there is a complete new market that has come in the last few years, which is the startup world. And every new kid from the graduate school or every other employee at some point in time wanted to join a startup or open a startup. And right now is India is the place to be to do this. So now not only are the big organizations offering good jobs, good perks and good salaries, so are the startups. So there is real talent war happening in India, which is good for somebody who's looking for a job. And going back to your core question, are we looking at good hikes? We are absolutely looking at good hikes. And I believe this trend will continue as the job market grows in India this year.
All right, just a quick word from me because I'm running out of time, Ashish, on attrition and salary trends.
Tamanna, I would agree that we're still going through the pains of the great resignation. It doesn't seem to be abating. Attrition is still running at record levels. That said, companies are not only backfilling, but they are growing their net headcount substantially. What that means is while there is hiring at the fresher at the bottom of the pyramid, but salaries across the board are going up as well. And that's a great story for the Indian job market. Again, and it's not just the unicorns, but also even the traditional companies, the telcos, the media, the ITes, of course, is leading in terms of hiring. where there are pretty homogeneous growth stories coming out of multiple sectors.
Good news to hear.
And hikes to go along with that.
That's great good news to hear, where the candidates are in now a bargaining position. On that note, I want to thank both of you for joining us on the show this evening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
Thank you.